Dr. Joe Jorgensen, the Libertarian president whose stories, patient, she makes the case for why her solutions are the cure for what ails America. Joe has the skills, drive, experience to bring the message of economic prosperity, health, freedom, peace, and meaningful criminal justice reform to this election. She has the determination to make real change for real people if elected. Joe Jorgensen is here to make individual freedom in America a major issue in this vital election year. This is the most important election of our lifetime. That's why you should vote for Joe. Please join us in helping her make this happen. It is my honor and my privilege to welcome your next President of the United States of America, Joe Jorgensen.
Speech. I can't think of a better place. I don't know how I'm going to make it through. I'm going to cry halfway through from this, and I know North Carolina was so good to me during the primaries. I can't thank you enough. And thank you for having me back again. And I suppose some of you have already heard my speech? Okay. Has anybody not heard it? Okay, some of you may have it more memorized than I do, but I'll start anyway and tell you about how it was my grandmother that gave me the love I have of my country. She was an immigrant who explained to me that in the old country, it didn't matter how hard you worked. It didn't matter if you had a second or third job, that the government took everything extra away from you so everybody would have the same. And listening to her, it sounds like she might have been from Soviet Union or some Eastern Bloc country, but actually she was from Denmark. And unfortunately, our country is headed more towards Denmark every day because the politicians think that they know better how to run your lives. However, I know that you know better, and that's why I'm asking for your vote for President of the United States. As your president, I will get government out of the way so that my grandmother's vision of the American dream can be a reality for us all. Our current government is too big, too bossy, too nosy, too intrusive. And besides, what gives them the right? We need to put the decision-making power back into your hands because you know better than any special interest lobbyist or bureaucrat in Washington how to make your decisions. Now, Americans would never budget $80 billion a year to keep families separated, but that's basically the end result with their prison system. We cannot claim to be the land of the free when we lead the world in incarcerations. The United States has 5% of the world's population, but we house 20% of its prisoners. And one of the biggest factors that's led to a quadrupling of our prison population since 1980 is the racist and destructive war on drugs. In particular, mandatory minimums have taken discretion out of the hands of judges and instead forced mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters to spend 10, 20 years, sometimes even a lifetime, for a supposed crime that has no victim. All we have to do is take a step back and look at the Prohibition era. Despite realizing how poorly alcohol prohibition went, we've created a carbon copy. Drug kingpins have replaced mob bosses. and drug dealers have replaced, or drug dens have replaced speakeasies. When was the last time you heard of a liquor store owner going up and down the halls of a high school trying to push gin on high school students? Or when's the last time you heard of a vodka addict breaking into houses in order to support a vodka habit? Or when's the last time you heard of two liquor store owners having a shootout over the best corner? What we have now is not a drug problem. What we have is a prohibition problem. There should be no law preventing you from owning an object, whether it's a gun to protect yourself or drugs for whatever reason you wish. If there is no victim, there is no crime. As your president, I will federally decriminalize all drugs and encourage states to treat substance abuse as a health issue, not a criminal one. We should allow the medical community to treat substance abuse in a way that salvages lives instead of throwing them away. Accordingly, I will pardon anyone convicted at the federal level of any victimless crime. Now, these are just a few steps towards ending the over-incarceration of people of color and letting consensual adult activities become safe and less stigmatized. Now, in addition to the overcrowding of our federal prisons, the war on drugs has negatively affected our communities and in many of the interactions that Americans have with the police. The drug war has single-handedly created gangs that usually police themselves, often through violence. Consequently, the federal government has created a police state, starting with the Department of Drug Enforcement, which takes about $3 billion of our tax dollars every year. They have repeatedly raided medical marijuana clinics where medical marijuana is completely legal. And long gone is a friendly patrol officer who walks the beat and knows everyone by name. Instead, the federal government has imported nameless, faceless SWAT teams, which make Americans feel like enemy combatants in their own neighborhoods. And it doesn't stop with the DEA. In recent months, we've seen the Department of Homeland Security, which receives another $50 billion in tax dollars, patrolling our streets in military fatigues. As your president, I will defund federal involvement in policing, including the DEA. That means ending the supplying of surplus military equipment like tanks and tear gas to over 8,000 federal, state, and local police forces. I will end no-knock raids, which too often end up killing innocent bystanders like Breonna Taylor. And as Libertarian Congressman Justin Amash has brought up, when police do misbehave, it's nearly impossible to take legal action because of an arcane doctrine known as qualified immunity, which states that victims can only successfully sue an officer when a clear civil rights violation has already been established in a prior case. When I am president, I will end qualified immunity so that police are held to the same standards as everyone else. Now, while millions of Americans have suffered from the government's war on drugs, almost everyone has suffered from the COVID-19 pandemic in some way. South Korea identified their first case within about a day of us diagnosing our first case, and they quickly jumped ahead in testing, containing the spread. So while cases in the U.S. skyrocketed, South Korea was almost able to eradicate it, and that's without any lockdowns. A testing initiative by Bill Gates was the first one to be done in the United States outside of a hospital system. And within about 10 weeks, they processed 20,000 tests. And yet on May 12th, the FDA shut them down, saying it needed, quote unquote, further assessment. This is just one example of how the FDA has stood in the way of people getting tested. Currently, only those companies with enough money and resources can even bring a drug to market. And once they do, they weaponize their patent, holding a monopoly. It costs about $1 billion to bring a drug to market, and about a 10-year process thanks to the FDA. Meanwhile, it's the patients who are waiting, desperately hoping for a drug that just might save their lives. New medicines and procedures need to get to patients as quickly and safely as possible. When I am your president, I will end the efficacy requirement, if not the entire FDA from the United States. The FDA is not the only issue with the American healthcare system. Let's be honest, it's not working for anyone, and my heart goes out to the millions of Americans who've been left behind, those families who've been bankrupted. Politicians in Washington for years have been blaming our free market system, saying therefore we need a single payer. Well, I've got news for them. We haven't had anything close to a free market system in nearly a century, and the alternative to our current big government failure isn't an even bigger government failure. When politicians say we need Medicare for all, what I'm hearing them say is we need VA hospital for all. And that top-down monopoly isn't acceptable for anyone, especially those who were willing to sacrifice their lives for our country. We cannot wait for government bureaucrats to decide who lives and who dies. We have to put the power back into the hands of patients. As I see it, the problem with the American system, our American healthcare system, is that our insurance isn't really insurance at all. In any other industry, insurance only covers unexpected costs. Therefore, they hold costs relatively low. In our broken healthcare system, though, it covers everything. So imagine if your car insurance covered gas, oil, and car washes. First of all, you would have absolutely no reason to shop around for the cheapest gas price. In fact, you might even go to the nicest gas station where you get free coffee, because what do you care? You whip out your little $5 copay and it costs as much as a cheap gas station. They could pass higher prices on to the car insurance company without you even knowing it. And then the car insurance in turn would raise your premiums the following year. This is exactly what's going on in our healthcare system. Patients have no reason to shop around for the best prices. Consequently, healthcare providers have no reason to compete on price. Insurance companies can charge whatever they want, and we're the ones left holding the bill, or footing the bill rather. Now, two of the best examples that I've seen of a somewhat free market system are in Singapore and the state of Indiana with the employees union. In the state of Indiana, in South Korea, their costs are about 1/3 of what ours are. And by the way, their doctor visits are about $10, which is cheaper than our copay. In the state of Indiana, they've gotten generic drug use to go from approximately 10% to about 90%. And the best part is the patients were glad to do it because they get to keep the savings. And that's the way it should be. I would like to turn the VA healthcare system into a system similar to the state of Indiana, where we put dollars into the hands of veterans and let them decide how and where and when to use them. The government letdown of soldiers doesn't begin with the healthcare system. It starts from the day they enlist. There are currently soldiers deployed who weren't even alive when our war on terror began. The United States spends more than the next 7 countries combined on its military. And we're in 150 different countries around the world. And what do we have to show for it? In the last 20 years alone, we've had over 500,000 deaths in Iraq, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, including 250,000 civilians. Those are mothers and fathers and children who will never return home. In every election, candidates promise peace, but they only deliver more war. If I'm elected president, my first official act will be to bring the troops home. I want to turn America into one giant Switzerland, armed and neutral. Our military must be trained to defend our shores, but we've got to stop meddling around the world and make peace with our world neighbors. The military budget is far from the only example of how the government has misdirected the economy. The IRS taxes Americans at every turn, and the system is so complicated that only those who can afford personal accountants and tax lawyers can even navigate the code. And that same IRS that taxes us to death probes into every personal financial decision we make. Meanwhile, the government itself is on a rampage with spending. Now, half the people in Washington say we need to increase military spending, and the other half say we need to increase domestic spending. So what's our bipartisan compromise? They simply increase all spending. As your president, my veto pen is going to need a lot of extra ink. Runaway spending is made possible by the Federal Reserve. When the federal government can't raise taxes, it simply prints more money. And without any backing, since the Fed was created over 100 years ago, our dollar has lost 96% of its value. We need to have laws. We need to reduce regulations and have laws that allow cryptocurrency and any other form of currency to enter the market. As your president, I will first audit and then end the Federal Reserve. I will eliminate the IRS and work with Congress towards eliminating the federal income tax altogether. To move money out of the government sector and back into the hands of the people who earned it. Politicians and bureaucrats don't know what you need. You do. When it comes to cutting spending, we can't take any options off the table. I would encourage baseline budgeting. So instead of assuming an increase every year, we instead start at zero and only then add what's vital. It's time for the government to balance its checkbook the same way the American people do. Given the challenges we face as a country, it's easy to feel like the change I'm talking about just can't happen. But I believe it can because I believe in you. I believe in the individuals who make up our great country. I see America through my grandmother's eyes. A place where the rights of the individual are greater than the power of government. A place where freedom means minimum government and maximum freedom. A place where the American dream isn't a dream at all. It's real and it's right there in front of you because you made it happen. So as I ask for your vote this November, it's not because I'm asking you to cast a vote for me. Instead, I think you should vote for you because you know best how to spend your money. You know best what your family needs. You know best what's best for you. Thank you so much. take questions, although you probably also know my answers by now, but hey, maybe somebody can come up with something new.
Can I get a
Oh, there's one right there. Oh, you're gonna have people line up? How would you like to do this?
Who has a question? You have a question, okay.
Hi, Joe. Sorry. But as a military member, I've noticed a steep decline in the strength of our military. Going on a 20-year war with a $686 billion budget should have made us stronger and smarter, yet the military leaders are continuously not learning from past mistakes and just making them up. When it comes to our service members, our morale has steeply declined. After you pull us out of places that we shouldn't be, what's your plan to keep and increase our military strength?
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your service, and to everybody who, again, willing to sacrifice their lives for our country. And I was on a radio show where the host said, well, but wait a minute, according to Trump, there weren't enough bullets, and he had to increase military spending. And my reply was, well, I'm sure there were enough bullets to defend our country, maybe not France and the other 150 countries, but we got enough bullets for our country. So I don't think we needed to increase spending, and I don't think we need to increase spending now, because if we come home from 150 countries, we're sure going to have enough bullets now for our country. And absolutely we have to protect our shores. And two quick things. We keep hearing how great France is because they get 5-week vacations. Well, maybe we get 5-week vacations too if we weren't paying for their military and Germany's and every other country. And if it were just the money, it wouldn't be that bad, but it's making us less safe, not more safe, and that's the purpose of the military. All we have to do is look to 9/11 to see that things need to be changed. But let me ask one thing, or add one thing quickly. I really think that Donald Trump I think he might have been sincere when he said he wanted to bring the troops home. I don't think he realized that the military-industrial complex was so big, and that these are all of his friends and buddies and people he went to school with, and now he's going to have to fire these people who make a lot of money in the Pentagon, and who make more in a month than most people make in a year when they have consulting jobs after they retire. So yeah, the swamp also means the military-industrial complex. Unlike Trump, I'm not well connected. I will have no problem firing those people.
Hello? If you have a question, please line up right here. We have room for a few more. So here you go.
Joe, I want to say a couple things. One, I voted for you, obviously. Love you, thank you. I'm a barber in Winston-Salem, so I'm self-employed. You speak directly to me, someone who works for themselves.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I've worked myself. I have my own company, so I know what a challenge that is, meeting the payroll.
So I have a question kind of concerning social media. Travis talked about it a little bit. I'm sure you know about Cambridge Analytica and some of the stuff that went on in 2016. Do you have an outlook on how social media, or what I would like to say, to be honest with you, propaganda has to do in the media, and is there any way to facilitate that under a libertarian umbrella?
What was the last term you heard, or you said? I missed it.
Propaganda through social media.
Oh, propaganda, yeah.
And if you saw the congressional hearing with Mark Zuckerberg, the whole time he basically was like, yeah, I don't know, I'll get my guys to look at that, and never answered a single question. The congressman didn't really have any great questions to begin with.
Yeah, I think he's learned how to be a politician himself by not answering questions. Maybe that's his next stage in life, I don't know. But I still say the free market can do a much better job than the government any day. And if you look at IBM, IBM was huge. Everybody was saying there's no way anybody can compete with IBM because of capitalization. They've got all these manufacturing plants. Nobody can ever get enough money to build as many plants as IBM. The Justice Department went after them for 13 years before dropping the lawsuit. And then what did bring IBM down was two guys in their garage who started Apple Computer. So now Apple's big, and I'm waiting for the next two guys in their garage. And keep in mind, you don't need to have the capitalization that you did to compete against IBM to start a Facebook. So the free market might not work as fast as we would like it to, but it would still work a lot faster than the government. So thanks.
Hey, Joe, it's always a pleasure to see you. So as a new libertarian and, a former Democrat, it's like a lot of tension that I've seen so far in the party. So as the face of the Libertarian Party, how would you explain it in your words, in your terms, so we're not just diet Republicans or conservative Democrats?
What tension are you talking about?
Separation on different ideologies have I seen so far. It's like, how are you going to vote, Democrat, but you're claiming to be a libertarian?
Okay, so you're wanting to know how we can stop the tension? Okay. I would suggest that the tension in the Libertarian Party is a heck of a lot less than the tension in the Republican Party with Donald Trump. Because there's actually a term, anti-Trumper, right? Or a never-Trumper, rather. Now, maybe I'm just not on social media enough, but I've never heard of a never Jorgensen or so. I'm hoping that's good. But, anytime you've got ideas, whether it's Democrats, Republicans, or Libertarians, there's always going to be tension to try to come up with the best solution. And I would say on the Democrat side, heck, Bernie Sanders was bought off. Tulsi Gabbard was the only anti-war voice. They muzzled her, they took her off the stage, and basically it was a party machine that put Joe Biden in place, kind of shoved him down everybody's throats. So I would say that just like everybody else, we've got a bunch of ideas, we're trying to get at the best one, but I was very pleased that when I was nominated, the Radical Caucus gave me the highest rating of everybody in the last round. And the Pragmatic Caucus gave me an endorsement of over 60%. So the fact that those two people, or those two groups agreed, I would say this may be actually better than it's been in the past. So stick around with us, though, and please add your ideas, okay?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, Joe, very, very nice to meet you, by the way. I'm so excited. So I'm a new libertarian as well. And
Thank you.
I'm a working musician, and I have a lot of friends in the service industry. And it seems like we're kind of moving towards like a cashless society type issue, which really hurts. It hurts these people, myself as well. Do you have any answers for protecting us? As far as our tips, it's like we talk about the IRS, we talk about, the federal government steps in so much, and it's almost like they don't want us to be able to make